Imagine a peaceful seaside town, known for its quiet charm and occasional retiree shuffleboard tournament. Now picture that same town engulfed in flames, with rioters on the streets, police sirens blaring, and social media ablaze with conspiracy theories. Welcome to Southport, the unlikely epicenter of the UK's latest wave of anti-immigration riots. But what on earth happened? Let's break it down with a touch of humor, because let's face it, this situation is so absurd that if we don't laugh, we might just cry.
Violent clashes have gripped parts of the UK in recent days as protests fueled by anti-immigrant sentiment rage across communities. But what sparked the riots and why?
It all began innocuously enough. On July 29th, a Taylor Swift-themed dance workshop was taking place in Southport. Yes, you read that right. A dance workshop dedicated to the music of America's favorite pop star. Now, this should have been an event full of love story sing-alongs and some questionable dance moves to shake it off. Instead, it turned into a scene straight out of a horror movie when 3 girls were tragically murdered in a knife attack.
Violent clashes have gripped parts of the UK in recent days as protests fueled by anti-immigrant sentiment rage across communities. But what sparked the riots and why?
The suspect? A 17-year-old named Axel Ruda Cubana, who appeared in court shortly after the incident. The police, in an attempt to calm the understandably rattled public, quickly clarified that this wasn't a case of terrorism. They emphasized that Ruda Cubana was born in Britain, with parents who had moved to the UK from Rwanda. But as you might have guessed, that clarification didn't exactly quell the storm that was about to hit.
Rumours around the suspect's heritage quickly gained traction online, fueling protests by anti-immigration and anti-Muslim demonstrators, which quickly descended into violence, arson and looting. Cars have been set on fire, and some unverified social media videos have shown ethnic minorities being attacked. False messaging on online platforms has also wrongly identified the suspected killer as a radical Islamist migrant. Police say high-profile figures amplifying these claims have contributed to the public response to the Southport killings. Former leader of the
Rumors, much like those pesky pigeons in Trafalgar Square, spread quickly. And boy did they spread. Before you could say fake news, social media was flooded with misinformation about Ruda Cubana's heritage. The whispers that he was an Islamist radical with a grudge against Taylor Swift fans, okay, we made that last part up, quickly spiraled out of control.
Rumours around the suspect's heritage quickly gained traction online, fueling protests by anti-immigration and anti-Muslim demonstrators, which quickly descended into violence, arson and looting. Cars have been set on fire, and some unverified social media videos have shown ethnic minorities being attacked. False messaging on online platforms has also wrongly identified the suspected killer as a radical Islamist migrant. Police say high-profile figures amplifying these claims have contributed to the public response to the Southport killings. Former leader of the
Enter the anti-immigration and anti-Muslim demonstrators, who saw this as their cue to take to the streets. Because when life gives you a tragic knife attack, apparently the logical next step is to set cars on fire and loot your local convenience store. Makes perfect sense, right? These protests, initially fueled by misinformation, quickly descended into full-blown violence. And let's not forget the arson, because what better way to honor the memory of those lost than by torching a few buildings?
Defunct anti-Islam English Defence League, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, who is better known as Tommy Robinson, is one of those being blamed by media for spreading misinformation to his many followers on X. Ex-owner Elon Musk has also weighed in. Responding to a post that blamed mass migration and open borders for the disorder in Britain, he wrote, "Civil war is inevitable." The spokesperson for British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said there was no justification for Musk's comments.
We'll ramp up.
In today's world, if you're not on social media, do you even exist? Apparently, the same goes for riots. The violence in Southport was supercharged by false messages spreading like wildfire online. Unverified videos, blaming everything from immigrants to your grandma's dodgy casserole, went viral. And who's there to add fuel to the fire? None other than Tommy Robinson, the former leader of the defunct anti-Islam English Defense League, and Elon Musk, the man who's convinced the future lies in rockets and electric cars, and now, apparently, in civil war.
Defunct anti-Islam English Defense League, Stephen Yaxley-Lennon, who is better known as Tommy Robinson, is one of those being blamed by media for spreading misinformation to his many followers on X. Ex-owner Elon Musk has also weighed in. Responding to a post that blamed mass migration and open borders for the disorder in Britain, he wrote, "Civil war is inevitable." The spokesperson for British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said there was no justification for Musk's comments.
We'll ramp up.
Tommy Robinson, never one to miss a chance to stir the pot, took to social media to spread his usual brand of xenophobic rhetoric. Meanwhile, Elon Musk, with all the subtlety of a bull in a china shop, tweeted that civil war is inevitable. I mean, sure, we get that he's busy planning for Mars, but maybe he should leave the earthly matters to those of us still stuck on this planet.
Criminal justice. There have already been hundreds of arrests.
Starmer, who has held emergency meetings with police and prison chiefs, has said violent protesters who target Muslim communities would swiftly face the full force of the law. Police say they've arrested hundreds of people since the start of the unrest and warned of lengthy prison terms for those found guilty of violent disorder.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer, or as some might call him, the man with a plan, sort of, has had his hands full dealing with this mess. Following emergency meetings with police and prison chiefs, Starmer announced that the violent protesters who targeted Muslim communities would face the full force of the law. Translation: if you're caught rioting, expect to spend the next few years staring at the same four prison walls. Hundreds of arrests have already been made, with police promising lengthy sentences for those found guilty of violent disorder.
The protests have spread quickly from Southport to several other areas of the UK, with marches held from London to Liverpool, with mosques and hotels housing migrants targeted.
The protests, which began in Southport, have since spread like a bad case of hay fever, hitting cities from London to Liverpool. Mosques and hotels housing migrants have become targets, because clearly, nothing says we're upset about a knife attack, like attacking people who had absolutely nothing to do with it.
Director of UK-based think tank British Future, Sundar Katwala, says the Southport knife attack has become a moment for people to mobilise against.
And so that tells us something about the group reputation of those groups among the people with, potentially far-right views and prejudiced views of them. But it is also that groups have been looking for an attempt to create a flashpoint, particularly around asylum accommodation, for the last several months.
Sundar Katwala, the director of the UK-based think tank British Future, has weighed in on the situation. According to him, the Southport knife attack became a flashpoint for those with far-right views, who were already itching for an excuse to cause chaos. These groups, he points out, have been looking for an opportunity to mobilize, especially around asylum accommodation. It's like they've been waiting in the wings, just biding their time until the right moment, or wrong moment, depending on how you see it.
Director of UK-based think tank British Future, Sundar Katwala, says the Southport knife attack has become a moment for people to mobilise against.
And so that tells us something about the group reputation of those groups among the people with, potentially far-right views and prejudiced views of them. But it is also that groups have been looking for an attempt to create a flashpoint, particularly around asylum accommodation, for the last several months.
Katwala's comments reveal the uncomfortable truth. These groups have a reputation for taking any opportunity to push their anti-immigration agenda. All they need is a spark, and unfortunately, Southport provided it.
The British government also says it's examining the role foreign states are playing in amplifying disinformation online, while warning social media firms they had to do more to stop it.
Now, if you thought this couldn't get any more complicated, hold on to your teacups. The British government is investigating whether foreign states are amplifying disinformation online to stoke the flames of unrest. Yes, that's right. Foreign meddling might be part of the reason why Southport is now a name associated with riots rather than fish and chips by the sea.
The British government also says it's examining the role foreign states are playing in amplifying disinformation online, while warning social media firms they had to do more to stop it.
Meanwhile, social media firms have been warned that they need to do more to stop the spread of false information, because nothing screams effective governance like telling Twitter to behave.
A specialist on right-wing extremism told Reuters that far-right groups are less organised than they were a decade ago, but that they are now highly visible, exploiting modern technology to capture attention.
A specialist on right-wing extremism told Reuters that although far-right groups are less organized than they were a decade ago, they've become highly visible thanks to the wonders of modern technology. Who needs secret meetings in dark basements when you've got Twitter, Facebook, and a smartphone? These groups have learned to capture attention with a few clicks and some well-placed hashtags, proving that while they might be smaller in numbers, they're louder than ever. So, what's causing the anti-immigration riots in the UK? It's a chaotic mix of misinformation, fear, and good old-fashioned opportunism. A tragic event in Southport provided the spark, but it was the rumors, the social media hysteria, and the calculated moves by far-right figures that turned it into a full-blown firestorm. In the end, the situation is a stark reminder of the power of misinformation and the dangerous ripple effects it can have on society. But if there's one thing we've learned from this debacle, it's that when it comes to British politics and public opinion, nothing is ever simple or boring. And for the love of all things sensible, maybe we should all think twice before hitting share on that next dubious post.